From in the beginning to the musical apocalypse, this is The Bible Says What? I'm your host, Mike Wiseman. If the Christian deity can't even protect or warn those that are actively spreading his word, those who are following what their deity has told them to do in Matthew 28, why would anyone think their minivan full of kids has any sort of special protection? Why would Yahweh send his angels to protect a family on their way to a beach, but fail to save a missionary on their way to spread the good news of Jesus? No matter how you look at it, he's either not there or he doesn't care. Let's start the show.
Is there anything in the Bible that you yourself have an issue with? Okay, so it took you reading the Bible to realize that those things were bad for you?
Yeah, it actually did. I didn't
figure this out on your own?
No, Ted Bundy could be redeemed. God doesn't kill children.
What do you think the Passover was? Yahweh sets up a whole system in the Old Testament where you slaughter animals just so he's able to forgive you.
Today's special guest is Christian author George Manassa. Welcome to the show, George.
Thank you very much for having me, Michael.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking the time. You're from Australia. So what's it like in the future? Are we all still alive? Is there a zombie apocalypse?
Oh, it's great to be in the future. I mean, that's always the problem we have with you Americans. We're in the future, and we always have to wake up a little bit early in the morning to talk to you guys. But I don't mind. I'm an early bird, so pleasure to be here.
Well, we're always living in the past over here, apparently. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your books?
So I'm the host and founder of the Catholic Toolbox Show. And I'm the author of a book called The Art of Practical Catholicism. I'm also the founder of a podcast called The Rite of Manhood, which focuses in just on manly topics, where we help men to make that rite of passage into manhood, because I'm very fascinated with the whole idea of making that rite of passage from boyhood to manhood.
Huh.
Excuse me.
Kazooie.
And because of that, I focus in my ministry more on the practical side of things, of living the Christian faith. Because I saw a need when I was in the workplace. I was engineer by trade, practical as you can get it. I was managing a project, $6 million, and we'd have what's called a toolbox meeting on Mondays to plan the strategy, the practicality of the whole project. You know, you had budgets, sheets, technical detail, everything, everyone coming together, as operational as possible. And then my mind zoned out, and I thought, this is what we need for the Christian faith. This is what we need to bring people to Christ in the midst of our ordinary circumstances. This is what we need. There, the show was born, and it became a radio show and everything else that it did. So that's a bit about me. I'm the author of The Art of Practical Catholicism. My book's available on many platforms. You just have to Google it in on Amazon and everything else. And also the Servers Toolbox, where for those who altar servers in the church. And currently my new book should be released called A Rite of Passage to Manhood, where I focus in, that should be later this year, where I focus in on the crisis in masculinity today in all cultures, and seeing how we can then assist the men to then make that rite of passage into manhood, to bridge that gap of masculinity that's lacking, that extension of adolescence. So I thought I would do that to help the crisis of masculinity and create a rite of passage for men more easily. We need to be practical if we're going to solve a lot of the problems we have today. I think because we haven't been strategic enough, that's why the culture that we're in today has sort of yielded more influence. But that's a bit of a summary about what I do.
Good. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, lots to tackle there. Manhood, I definitely want to tackle that a little bit. Something a little different here. I don't usually do that, but masculinity. What do you mean by masculinity?
Masculinity. So the the definition of a man in classical Roman and Hellenic terms is to be virtuous. Is to be a virtue, a vir in Latin, as it derives in its original meaning. And we could summarize being a man as being able to lead, protect, and provide in all aspects of his life, and that you've transitioned out of your boy state into that manly state and been able to attempt to live that way of life as a man in leading, protecting, providing in all aspects of your life, whether it's your career, you can lead, protect, provide, your family, you can lead, protect, provide, your the way you show up in your community, and living that life consistently and growing in that way of life as a man, and also in a community of other men as well. So I think, and embracing masculinity, embracing the masculine identity uniquely, and knowing that it is distinct from the feminine identity. There's something distinct about it, and that's all it is. I mean, it's a mindset, and then applying it practically to your situation, because I mean, we can't tell people what to do in every single situation uh, and how to live it. But if you're living that way of life, you're able to determine and navigate each day. Wake up in the morning, look at yourself in a mirror, and say, "Look, I'm a man. I'm living my life as a man, my identity as a man, and I'm proud of the man I am." In circumstance.
So just so I'm clear, it's virtuous and somebody that leads, protects, and provides. That's masculinity.
Yeah.
Can women be masculine?
There are masculine elements. I mean, and men can be feminine. I mean, that's the complementarity of both men and women, is that men can't be made just for themselves. Can you imagine if it was just a world of men alone? We'd probably kill each other.
We're currently doing that. Yeah.
We are. I mean, we just beat each other up like cavemen. But yeah, there are elements, definitely. And I think men assist women in having some of those elements there. Of leading, protecting, providing, and also having that strength as well. Leading, protecting, providing in the aspect of strength, also physical strength as well, and especially protecting. And women help men in terms of intuition, in terms of that softer side. But what I didn't say before was a man is an equilibrium, is a perfect balance of strength and also of being timid, of being collected, and being balanced. So
I see the same thing with women as well. I don't see that just as a man thing. I think these attributes you're ascribing to men are equally among the sexes, like feminism, masculinity, whatever you want to call it, virtue, leader, protector, provider, all that fun stuff. I kind of want to get off of this for a second, but thank you for that. I appreciate it. I just wanted to see where we're going with that. I want to jump into a little bit about what you do. Is you're providing a service. You're kind of witnessing and like a missionary. There's the word, like a missionary. Do you believe this is something that you have to do, that's required from you from the Bible? Like what was it, Matthew 28, the Great Commission?
Yeah, absolutely. As Matthew chapter 20, verse 19 through 20 says, go therefore and baptize in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, baptize all you nations.
Yeah.
So our Lord Jesus Christ commands us, we have an obligation to bring people to the Christian faith, to preach the gospel, because the gospel is the truth, and that's the means by which you will be saved. And so it's very clear. St. Paul is very clear in his letters. We have to, and people die. I mean, clearly, if you read the Bible, people died preaching the gospel, risked their lives preaching the gospel. Peter himself was killed.
It happens today still, yeah, for sure. That
exactly.
I can't remember his name for some reason, but the guy that went to that island and got, yeah, not a smart move. But so
I mean, when love moves you to bring the gospel to people,
right?
I mean,
we can debate on the love part, but
you don't look at the fact that I'm sure you'd definitely be scared. You'd definitely be scared you're going to lose your life, or you're risking your life. But
right, and why would Yahweh instruct people to do something that he knows is going to kill some of them?
Well, you have to then start from the very beginning. Then Does our life belong to us? Does our life really belong to us to start with? That's how we think.
Yes, my life belongs to me.
Well, first of all, if there is a creator and there is a first cause of the universe,
My life doesn't belong to my parents. Does your life belong to your parents? They created you.
no, the first cause, which is God, who caused everything from the very beginning,
Uh-huh.
and
So,
then obviously, and existence itself, God's nature is existence. So we don't exist without God. So the very
so
principle is,
sorry, if there was, if, just say for instance, if there was a machine out there that created universes, or an entity of some sort. I have heard before the farting unicorn, the unicorn that just farts universes. Would that be considered a god if that's what's out there?
well, you have to break down what's out there. It's not just simply out there in the universe. It can't be bound by the physical laws of the universe. These are the first principles of
Okay, this
privilege
creature
by-
isn't bound by the physical laws of the universe.
But
I mean,
can't be. Well, if I can't say I'm the creator of the universe because I'm human and I was caused
uh-huh,
and I didn't exist, maybe 20 years ago, and my parents didn't exist.
uh-huh.
So we're dealing with the very nature of the physical laws of the universe. Let's go back to the Big Bang Theory. I mean,
Okay,
the universe didn't exist 13.7 billion years ago, and matter itself didn't exist. We're dealing with matter. I think the scope is outside the physical, so what we call the metaphysical, and if there is a God and he,
that's all way over my head. Sorry, George. I start talking metaphysics, I'm done. My brain just shuts down.
It's all over my head as well. I mean, it's a little bit of wisdom that I can provide you with.
Right. I mean, it all seems very voodoo magic, anyways, because I don't. My cell phone is voodoo magic. This is voodoo magic. I don't even know how this works. How does that even make my voice louder? Anyways, there's a lot of crazy things out there I don't understand. But to insert an invisible person, to me, is kind of cheating. You're not even finishing the homework. You're going through the whole thing. Oh yeah, God, and you're not even really finishing it. You're not looking at it. You're not deciphering, ruling out other options. I mean, when you insert an invisible person who's outside of time and space, who's outside of the physical realms, I can insert literally anything into that same spot and it works. I could put Spider-Man there.
But you have to reason. You have to reason from using reason. And
so, there's no. Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
We got to reason and say, okay, if matter didn't exist itself from the very, very beginning.
Well, how do you know that?
We need to deduce. Well, 13.7 billion years ago, science tells us to start with, matter didn't exist.
What if it did? We just couldn't see it or taste it, or couldn't, whatever. I don't know, man. It's just all very confusing to me. I don't think there's one straight answer. I think it's just, and I don't know is a great one. But you put all your faith in this one invisible guy.
I appreciate your perspective, but yeah, 13.7 billion years ago, there was a small. I mean, if we deduce from the very beginning that you can't say the create. If you're going to say how does matter exist in and of itself,
okay,
then surely it can't be bound by the physical laws of the universe. This being or whatever, you can't just make up an idea about a being or God or something out there. We have to use reason.
Well, that's reasonable. Why is that not reasonable?
No, well, we have to study it using reason.
If your idea of the invisible guy is reasonable, then my idea of any other invisible being is also reasonable. I can put anything in that spot, in that void of God that you've chosen.
Being. We need to reason about who this person is. What are the attributes based on science, based on
which attributes of God are based on science?
The fact that he'd have to be infinite to create something from nothing.
I don't think that's based on science, George. I think that's well,
that's a big discussion. That's a big, long discussion.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm not prepared for that. My brain is not ready for science. It's too early in the morning right now, George.
I recommend a book called Proofs for the Existence of God from Astrophysics. It's by Father Robert James Spitzer. And he can get all that for you.
That's exhausting, just the title.
There's a lot of things to go through, and you can do that. It's a topic for somebody else, and probably for another time.
For sure, yeah. Let me read some books first. We'll get back to the science stuff. But this Great Commission is told to do this by this invisible guy, this God that you've chosen. And so when he tells you to do this, and he knows everything, such as I think it's John Chow. I could be screwing it up. But I think it's that John Chow guy. So if John Chow heard the call, read the Bible, says, go witness to everybody needs to witness. Well, there's this island of guys and families and whatnot that have never heard. They're completely isolated. Well, what do? He's got to witness to them. Jesus said so. The Bible tells him so, So he went over there risking everything, thinking his God was going to protect him. Why? Because, well, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and all the other people that Yahweh's protected.
There's no guarantee that God's going to protect you.
Right. But he has the strongest, most powerful being on his side.
There's a risk.
And he has told him to do it.
That's the whole point of love. I mean, the fact is that there is a risk. I could lose my life over this. But when it's the same thing. If someone walks into you're going out and defending your country or protecting your home from an invader, there's a risk. You could die in defending that. Because you do love, you embrace that risk. And that's part of the sacrifice. I mean, both men and women, in human virtue, observe, and especially more so in preaching, at least what you believe in general, and even more so if you believe there is a God, preaching that, so that's the logic behind it. We can't expect that God's going to protect us, magically, there. We have to have the right.
Why not? But he does protect people magically.
In certain circumstances, he does or he doesn't in certain circumstances.
So why would he not protect you when you're spreading his word, spreading his message?
Can you imagine if God protected us in every situation?
No, just in the ones where you're spreading his word. I think that would be more. I think that would be more evidence of his existence, more evidence of his loving character, if he protected those that were spreading his word and message.
I mean, the world we can't.
No robots, just this one situation. If you were spreading his word, you were invincible. Also, children are immune to cancer. That'd be a great one. But if you're spreading his word, wouldn't you think it'd be more proof of his existence and love, and that his wishes, his wants, his desires want you to do this? Wouldn't that be more proof, more evidence of that? If he did that, if he only in this one situation, when you are witnessing to strangers or dangerous areas, you're going in the jungle, wouldn't that be more of a logical thing to do?
Absolutely. If he came out of the clouds every 10 minutes, it'd be more proof.
But that'd be great too. If he showed up at my birthday party, I'd like that. Come on down, Jesus.
But where would the mystery be? I mean, can you imagine?
Why do you need mystery? Every 10 minutes? Can you imagine? Hey, hold on, George. Why do you need mystery?
Because there is a sense of mystery.
But why though? Why do you need it?
Why do we need it?
Yeah, why do you need it when it comes to God? Why do you need a sense of mystery when it comes to God? Is there any other relationship that you need a sense of mystery with?
When you pursue a woman, I mean, if
you don't need a sense of mystery, you're there to find out, to discover each other. That's not a sense of mystery, though.
I disagree with you. I think I love this. I love this discussion.
This is great.
Sort of beating off. It's sort of like my sibling relationship.
So, are you married, George?
I am married. I've been married for 8 months.
Do you know your wife now?
Yes, but every single day there is that sense of mystery, discovering the person for the rest of your life.
No.
That's a great thing. Are you married yourself, brother?
I am. Yeah.
Great. How long have you been married?
About 9-10 years here. It's not a whole lot of mystery. I don't understand. That's the whole point of a relationship, is to get to know each other, not to have mystery still. And plus, my wife is here.
The drive is the mystery that there's.
Is your wife here?
No.
Can you see her?
What do you mean?
She's a visible, actual entity in your vicinity that you can interact with. Yahweh is not. Jesus is not. It's a big difference there.
Yeah, because you're dealing two things, where this is a human nature and this is a divine nature. Divine nature
shows love in this particular manner. Is that how he chooses to show his love? Is by not showing up, not being there, especially for people that are witnessing that he told them to do? If I told my kid to go take out the trash, I will go out front and make sure he's going to be okay. I will stand there and protect him as a loving father. That's what I will do. Make sure he's okay. But Yahweh tells his kids to go out and spread his word and spread his gospel of Jesus, and then doesn't protect them. He just like, yeah, good luck. Have fun with that. Oh, that one. I watch this. That guy, he's gonna get his head cut off. Oh, that one is gonna get hung up. Oh, that guy's gonna get boiled. They're gonna eat him. I mean, they're like, what's he doing? Like, that doesn't make any sense. How is that a loving father? How is that a loving being in particular? I mean, that doesn't add up to me. How does that work for you?
I understand it's hard. A lot of people ask that question. Even Jesus Christ said, my God, where are you?" I mean,
Well, he is God.
I mean,
it's such a weird thing, though. It's like me. Where am I?
It can be a weird thing. It can be a weird thing. I mean, I love your curiosity. I mean, it's just you want answers now and everything else. But
coffee's kicking in. Sorry, George.
It's like if I walk into a calculus class and want to know everything, and that's what you're doing at the moment. You need arithmetic, you need algebra, you need to build your bases up to be able to
feed me, George.
And also, I think these aren't just purely intellectual questions. We do, if it is spiritual, if it is metaphysical, you need that sense of reflection a little bit and comprehension over time, which you can't achieve in an hour or 45 minutes. But we don't know everything about God. Like if God is omnipotent, all powerful, infinite, we as limited human beings can't understand everything. We can understand something.
Will we understand in the end?
Yes, we will. Because
okay, so then we can understand.
Like if you do believe in the existence of an immortal soul, then, and that will be separated from the body at death.
Is my immortal soul
your soul is
in
no
me?
longer bound by the physical laws of the universe and the intellectual faculties.
But is it in me now?
Absolutely. It's what
okay, so then it has.
life.
Then I have the ability. It's in me right now. That ability is inside of me. So let me know. Help me understand. Come on, God. No,
but I agree with you on many levels. But I mean, that's just the nature of. We don't know everything about every little question about why God does things, but what we can do is reason as much as possible.
I'm trying.
As much as possible.
And there's not much reason going on here. It's just not very reasonable.
I think there is. I think you need time. I think you need time, bro. You need to ask more questions, reflect more slower, and
he's had lots of time, dude. He's had lots of time to show up, and he still doesn't show up. Every birthday, I save him a seat.
Your life personally, he has to show up in your life.
Yeah. What's he waiting for? There's verses here that tell me that if I ask, he'll show up. If I ask him, he'll teach me unknowable things. I've been asking for him to show up. Nothing, man. He hasn't shown up for anything. He can't even hang out with me though.
Exist?
What's that?
Does it mean so then you've concluded he doesn't exist?
Well, that right there concludes several things. One, yes, no, he doesn't exist. Two, he's either he doesn't exist or he's not a loving character and really doesn't care about me. Three, he's not listening. He's paying attention to someone else. What's
your subjective understanding of love?
My subjective understanding of love. Okay. Well, I could tell you right now.
Define these parameters so that you can then see it from
being present. Being present in someone's life is loving. There's part of it. There's a little piece right there of love. Being present. Yahweh's not present. Does not show up. A shoulder to lean on. Someone to have a conversation with. Talk things through with. A safe place. Oh, hi, God. You know what happened today? So-and-so did such and such. Oh, sorry, Mike. When I get in those kinds of situations, what I find best is blah, blah, blah. No, I don't have that. I can't just sit down and have a beer with Jesus. These are loving attributes that I do not have or do not see.
I have those conversations.
You do not have two-way conversations with Jesus, George.
I do. He doesn't respond in human form that you expect. I think you're painting. You have an expectation.
Of course, I do. When you tell me it's a relationship, I have an expectation.
When you get out of that expectation, you're then able to see things differently.
You're telling me to lower my expectations of what a loving relationship should be?
You want to have a beer with Jesus one-on-one, maybe 2,000 years ago when he walked the earth, but now it's a spiritual conversation.
No idea what that means.
Okay, a spiritual conversation is where you could sit down in what we call prayer. So engage in your spiritual sense and have that conversation with Jesus, and then things unfold. Let's say you're speaking about your day.
You're skipping ahead. The spiritual sense. I still don't understand that part. How is it a spiritual sense or a spiritual prayer? Are you outside of your body as a ghost? Is your soul the one that's taking over? I'm confused. How does that
So the way
work?
we understand it is the soul has two faculties, the intellect and the will.
It has a brain?
No, part of your intellect is your intellect. Your soul has an intellect and a will. So your willpower connected to your intellect is sort of where your soul comes alive.
That's so confusing, George. Okay, so does my soul have a brain? It's so confusing.
It's Aristotelian philosophy.
Right.
That's the way
Using
I
all
can
these big
explain it to
words early
people.
in the morning, George. What kind of coffee you drinking?
Just straight black.
Straight black. That's the way to do it. Oh man. So
No milk.
So how does that work?
Like,
It has an
Americans
intelligence.
Creamer. You Americans call it creamer.
I love crema.
Creamer.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to the US later.
M&M
later.
creamer is really delicious. Have some of that while you're here.
I heard it's not actually milk.
No, it's not. I have no idea what it is actually. I should probably read
You
on
guys
that.
put it in your cappuccino. I don't understand that.
Do it? I don't even know. I don't think I've had a cappuccino in like years.
That's crazy.
Hey, we're getting off topic here. Spirit. Coffees.
So
how does the spirit, does it have a brain? How does this intelligence work?
okay. Well, so you might want to pick. Let me mention here. There's a great book by my spiritual director. Spiritual father his name is John Flater. It's called Dying to Live. So Dying to Live, Reflections on Life After Death by John Flater. He's originally born in the United States, and
Clever.
he's just finished a book where he gathers empirical data from people who, again, this is part of the science, and at least if you're going to investigate, you look at situations there where people who have experienced near-death experiences, and they've experienced things like getting, let's say in surgery, a woman was in surgery.
I've heard a lot of those.
Her body, and she was able to leave her body and see what was going on.
Yeah.
And actually help the doctor find his scissors after. I mean, that's a great story.
See, a lot of these are
thousands and thousands of empirical data collected about neither, whether you want to accept it or not.
Hard to accept, man.
You know, like I could, you know, if you ask me, you know, do you exist? It's up to me. I mean, there's a lot of things we can question, but it's up to you to sort of see it a certain way. It's all how you want to see the world.
Right. But is it more likely that I exist or someone floated around and found some Dr. Scissors in an afterlife experience? It's very unbelievable. And when you dive into these things, you find a lot of problems.
From a data perspective, there's been thousands of those situations experienced by many people. So that might suggest, if you accept it or not, that there could be a lot, that the soul is separate from the body. And what makes us human is a bit more than just our bodies.
I still don't know.
And that's what gives us a little bit that difference from, let's say, the animals who can't reason and learn the way we do. Let's say ants. Ants don't have an engineering degree, but we can have an engineering degree and build things.
Yeah, but they're better builders than us. I mean, they can do all those structures underground, all those different caverns and tunnels, and all just using their mouths. They don't use the tools. It's crazy. Ants are awesome.
Think they learn the same way as us?
I have no idea. I'm sure there's not little ant colleges in there, but
is there a distinction?
I would assume yes.
Okay. All right. So, okay, that's great. That's a start. At least there's a distinction. So the fact that we're able to reason in a different way, again, the intellect and the will, we're able to reason as human beings differently from the animals who are simply born, they learn a way, and they stay the same. There's a difference why, you know, they sort of, you know, in the animal kingdom, and many times when you gather data, it doesn't change. Or it doesn't advance the same way we as humans advance. We develop technology differently because our intellects are different and our wills are different. So we do
definitely.
So we believe at least the soul has something to do with that.
I think they've definitely advanced, though. I think ants didn't start off making these amazing structures. I think it took time for them to build the better ones and find the better way to do things. I think that's definitely what happened.
You don't see skyscrapers, do you? You don't see the advancement, the rate of advancement as human beings.
We can't see it because we weren't there. But that doesn't really help out with the intelligence of the soul, though. Where does this
see and observe in our lifetimes?
Where does this intelligence come from, though, George? Or like, is there a soul factory somewhere and somebody's putting intelligence into each one?
Yeah, I'm saying that the soul, which is the being, the metaphysical, that's not physical. It's not bound by the physical laws of the universe. That's our understanding as Christians, or anyone spiritual, is that soul is metaphysical. It's not bound by my human body. It's what gives me life and makes me who I am.
Interesting.
That when I die, that soul does separate from the body, and it's not bound by space and time and the physical universe.
So,
and while I'm alive, my soul is in my body and gives me life, and it assists my physical intellect to reason better, and my will as well. And that's why we have a moral code. That's how we explain it, that at least there is a moral code in us, not to kill, not to steal, regardless of your belief or religion. And so that's how I would explain it to you.
Gotcha. So
4
what's
a.m. in the morning.
So from what I'm understanding is where do the souls come from? Is there a being out there that creates these souls and puts all of that stuff into them?
Okay, well, I want to ask you that question. If a soul existed, if you would accept that our souls exist.
I don't, though.
Let's assume you did. Give us the benefit of the doubt.
Okay, souls exist.
If they did, where do you think they would come from? And this is part of the reasoning.
There's no reasoning. We're going with hypothetical that's beyond common sense.
Based on the attributes I've given you, what could you then deduce was the source of our metaphysical souls?
Venus. Venus is actually the soul factory, and there's actually in the center of Venus there's a portal, and all the souls go down into this portal, and once they reach there, they pop up on Earth into a new baby. Every new baby, pop, and it just naturally creates souls. That's what Venus is. That's what Venus is.
Scientific.
Unfortunately, we're unable to go there. I have to all on faith.
Yeah, but that's not good enough. Like we're actually going deeper into a philosophical discussion. We're actually saying, what would be?
You have not proven anything. The only thing you have proof of a soul is your stories of people that have had out-of-body experiences, and most of those, like I've said, are debunked. Most of them are debunked. And if you even have a handful of them that aren't,
look, you can accept.
It doesn't mean that people are floating around. That just means that people thought this or dreamt this or had this happen in their head. She could have been wheeled through the hospital, seen those scissors at some point, not even thinking about it, but her subconscious brought it back up to her. There's all kinds of explanations for these things.
How are you going to, if you don't have the physical faculties of the eyes, how did she see the scissors that were packed away in a different section?
She must be psychic.
Well,
Daredevil can see things. He's blind.
That's very spiritual.
Sonar.
Because there's no evidence of being psychic.
There's people that use sonar. I mean, there's all kinds of ways we can explain this besides a god or a soul. How are you going to explain
that? See, that's what we have to turn the tables and say, you're going to, if you don't.
I just gave you several explanations.
Objective truth at all, then the very foundation of you arguing anything is
okay.
Out of the.
One more time. What'd you just say?
If you don't accept that there's any objective truth or any sort of definitive fact, then you can't really argue. You can't accept anything really. Like you're gonna have a tough time accepting.
Yeah.
Your own existence. Like for instance, do you believe that you exist?
I don't know. I have no idea. I could be just floating around in a bubble somewhere and like a fish tank and just hooked up to a bunch of things, and there's alien fish that are sucking my dreams. And no idea.
Do you believe this podcast exists? Do you believe, because there are belief systems where they don't think the world actually exists.
Right, but I use what I can. I use what I have, my senses, right?
What senses, do you believe in? I'm just trying to get to what do you accept as fact in your life?
The things that I can sense is what I accept. I accept that this microphone is here because I can sense it. I can touch it. I can hear it. I can taste it. If I wanted to, I can do anything. It's real. It's physical. This is how I find out what's real in my life. I use my senses to do that.
So you only accept something bound by the physical laws of the universe?
Sure, why not?
Okay, so that's your scope. How do we work through this?
You want to try gravity? They usually try gravity with this, and it doesn't really work.
Gravity, yeah. I like
yeah. Yeah, I can feel the effects of gravity.
Gravity.
I can feel the effects of gravity. We can see the effects of gravity. We can test the effects of gravity. That's how we get to launch our satellites. I mean, if we didn't know what the gravitational pull was, we wouldn't know how much fuel to pack. I mean, we know we can test it. So gravity doesn't work. Got any other ones?
I didn't use gravity. Never even knew what the gravity argument was. So you only accept arguments based on what you can see or observe.
Reality. That's what I call reality.
I
What
mean,
would you call reality, George?
I understand. Yeah. And again, your version of reality may not be true because this may all be just a dream and we don't really exist.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Jesus could be right next to me this whole time laughing. I have no idea. No clue. But to punish me for not believing that Jesus is sitting here, that's ridiculous. Or to just accept that Jesus is sitting everywhere, also ridiculous. You know, I was in an accident recently, and whenever I talk to the insurance company, they're always asking me, hey, were you in the car by yourself? Man, every time I want to say, no, Jesus was with me. I don't, though. So, I mean, to believe that Jesus is everywhere, I believe it's kind of ridiculous because we have no physical proof of this. We can't sense it
from a purely human perspective.
Right. And I'm using my human brain that God gave me. I'm using my human brain that God gave me to deduce that God doesn't exist.
Yeah, but you haven't proven that God does. You can't prove that God doesn't exist.
You haven't proven that God does exist. The most
sensible thing is that you can say you don't know.
Right. That's why I call myself an agnostic atheist, because I don't know.
Atheism doesn't really exist. Okay, and then
what? What?
Because you can't. I don't believe you can prove that there isn't a God that exists.
Well, you don't have to. That's the burden of proof lies on the person who's making the claim. The person that's making the claim there is a God has to prove it first, and that's where the atheism comes in. There's no proof. Nobody's been able to prove to me that this loving, invisible being exists at all.
Well, I disagree with that. There's many scientific things that we can go through. There's things on a spiritual and metaphysical level.
Nothing spiritual can ever be proven.
It can be proven.
How can then prove to me the spiritual? Besides a story of somebody finding scissors and an out-of-body experience. Prove to me right now that there's a spiritual. Can you do like a poltergeist thing? Make your spirit move something. I don't know. Come out of your body. And then, I don't know. Tell me something that's in my room over here.
Do you and I accept? Okay, you have to break it down gradually. You have to build it up. Please.
Go.
Okay, what will you accept as spiritual?
Nothing, because you have to prove to me that something spiritual exists.
Okay, so what do you think caused the universe? Let's go back to the first principle.
No idea.
Let me try that.
No idea, but I'm not going to insert something.
Okay. If something did cause the universe, using your reasoning, what do you think it could have been? If matter never existed 13.7 billion years ago prior to the Big Bang.
I have a very vivid imagination. I could think of all kinds of crazy contraptions and creatures that could create the universe. All kinds of ideas.
How can you create something from nothing? The law of conservation.
Well, how do you know that there wasn't something? It all imploded on itself.
What are the attributes of what may have created matter itself?
How do you know?
Well,
we don't know. We can't know any of this stuff.
Have energy to create something from nothing. You can't create matter nor destroy matter. So this being, whatever you want to call it, energy source, may actually require. It may need to be infinite to have created matter itself. That's just my human thinking. Maybe. Matter never existed. If matter never existed, it may need to be infinite to create something from nothing. Second of all,
maybe it just popped into existence by itself.
If we have a being,
just because you don't know,
you and I have we have a personality, we have a being.
George, this isn't going to work if you keep talking over me. Hold on. If we don't know what could have caused the beginning of time, the beginning of everything, we have no clue. It could be anything. I'm taking George. This is fantasy, though. I don't want to play fantasy games. This is just fantasy at this point.
It's not fantasy. It's called reason. It's called saying, if matter, it's actually asking these questions, attempting to answer these questions.
Right, but we have to introduce something that's eternal. We have to introduce something that's infinite. All that stuff. That's just fantasy.
No,
I'm not putting a creature in there that's eternal
at the very nature of physics
or magical. Magic isn't real.
If matter exists, how can you create matter from nothing? Matter can't be created nor destroyed.
I don't know, George. I keep telling you, I don't know. I have no idea, George.
Okay, well, that's not the attitude that, the great scientists had.
I am not a great scientist, George. We've been through this. I barely had my coffee.
Okay, but I would like to know at least. That's why I try to ask these questions.
Right. No, totally understandable, George. Totally understandable.
It's all, yeah, exactly. Okay. So at least I want to try and discover. I mean, we as human beings, at least if you want to try, at least we can't say, I refuse to insert this idea. Forget about God. Forget about that religion, deity, everything. These are just purely reasonable questions. How do I get here? What created the world? How did matter itself exist?
A matter creating entity. I mean,
exactly.
That's not made of matter. That's
what might be the attributes of this matter creating entity? To have created
circular. It's round. It's a perfect circle. It doesn't shed any light.
What created that? How much energy?
It created itself.
Matter from nothing.
It created itself. So, George, if your God is an infinite God, who created your infinite God?
So that's a good question.
Yes.
Let's
matter can't come from nothing, George.
Let's assume another God created him, right?
Oh, so now we have who created that?
It doesn't make sense. Now another God created him. Another God created. So we go back to the whole human situation, which is my parents created me, my grandparents created me. So if we're going to accept that something created from nothing, the attribute of this energy, force, whatever you want to call it, may have to be infinite. In nature, may have infinite, never created, unbegotten.
Fantasy. Fantasy, George.
Reason.
If something has to come from something, George, you can't insert something that doesn't come from something. That defeats your whole purpose.
Then, no, of course, we're accepting that. Something coming from something. But if we're going to accept, let's say, matter itself never existed and was created, right? Then whatever created matter, let's say this energy, if that was created then that's simply wasn't the first source of that. See, we're dealing with the metaphysics. It's much deeper than you think.
No, I totally believe you.
To sort of think about these things. You don't have to accept it, but at least to think about these things.
Right. I've thought about a lot of it, George, and none of it makes sense. And I'm back at I don't know every single time.
That's okay if it doesn't make sense.
And to go from I have to have matter can't come from nothing to my God came from nothing. It just defeats itself there, George.
You see why, at least we as human beings, it can be limited to us to understand.
See, now I'm going to go and erase your God, and I'm going to say matter came from nothing. It's limited to your understanding. We don't need your God at that point. It's pointless.
Yeah, but that leaves us with the question of, hey, there's nothing else but this universe. And then when we die,
you don't know that.
I'm interested in the very existence of matter itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was matter always here?
Where did God's matter come from?
You have to suggest that matter is infinite. It's always been here.
I don't know, George. Sorry. I that's such a weird conversation for me. My brain's not ready for that one. But all I'm saying is, if something has to come from, or nothing can't, whatever that.
It doesn't have to. We're just concluding these.
Okay, so then at that point we can completely erase your God. Does that make sense? Does that add up?
Erase our God.
You say matter can't come from nothing, right? Mm-hmm. It has to have a cause. But you're also saying that God caused that first matter, but God doesn't have a cause. So therefore, this doesn't need a cause either. So we can have this without God, correct?
No, you need a source. Let's say if matter.
Okay, so where's the source of God?
Nor destroyed. So, but that's
where does this power come from?
Okay, let's say God had a source. Right?
What was it?
It's God, but then he was created. Mm-hmm. What question would you be asking me then?
Well, it defeats your argument, though, that matter can't come from, or I'm screwing this up. Matter can't come from nothing. There it is. That's your argument, correct? Matter can't come from nothing.
Well, that's the law of conservation.
Okay.
Matter could be created nor destroyed.
God is made out of matter, is he not?
No.
No, God's not made out of matter.
He wouldn't be God. I'm made of matter. I can't claim to be the creator of the universe and the creator.
What's he made out of then, George?
Okay. What's he made out of?
Right. If he's not made out of matter, we're made in his image. It seems to me like he's made out of matter, and he looks like
No,
people.
he's not. He
Okay,
can't
so
be made out
we're
of
not
matter. If
made
he's
in his
made out of
image
matter,
then.
how can he be God?
What is he made out of?
Okay, now let's use some of our human reason. If
We're
something
fantasy.
was to create this universe, it's not fantasy.
Just
It's not fantasy. It's not fantasy that we exist.
no,
not
but it's fantasy.
fantasy.
The conversation we're having right now. I mean, what's he made out of? He's not made
These
out of matter.
conversations, look, I
Okay,
think
what's
these
he made out
conversations
of? Then?
require a bit more focus. You know, what we're dealing with is metaphysics. It's stuff's not
Fantasy.
easy
I
to
don't. You keep calling it metaphysics. I'm not familiar with metaphysics, but to me,
Oh,
this
there's
sounds
the
more.
answer.
Yeah. So what
Okay.
is he made out of? He's
Look,
not made out of
I think maybe
matter.
what you can do is maybe read up a little bit on metaphysics. You know,
Right.
I'm not so good at it as well.
Right. Let's get back to the question though. What is he made out of?
Yeah. What's God made of in a physical sense, or
Right. You said he's not made out of matter. What is he made out of?
see? I don't know how to explain that actually. What's he made out of?
Right.
I don't know how to describe that.
Kind of like our soul. What's our soul made out of?
Your being.
That makes no sense. Made out of my. Okay.
To you, maybe.
I guess.
Like what you're trying to describe is metaphysical realities in a physical condition.
I'm trying to
What's
describe.
it made out of? Yeah, flesh, blood, bone. I'm probably not the best person to answer
You're good. Yeah.
that in its specific thing. Might have to look that up. I
no
can
worries.
get back to you about that.
No worries. We've exhausted our time here, anyways. I do appreciate the conversation today. It was a lot of fun, back and forth before my coffee. But why don't you tell everybody at home where they can find you?
You can go to my website, thecatholictoolboxshow.com. So thecatholictoolboxshow.com. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, man. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it. I'll let you know when this comes out.
Okay.
Stay safe out there.
Excuse me. Have you stopped recording?
Yes. Well, it's still recording, but I was about to exit out. What's up?
Okay. Now, I didn't know that. So you were an ex-pastor.
Well, my parents are pastors. Evangelical, I guess you would say.
Oh, okay. I thought you were actually a pastor. I don't mind having these conversations.
Oh yeah, no.
Pastor. So that's great. Okay.
Well, I mean, I am an ordained minister. I do have a certificate.
But you don't believe in God anymore.
No, yeah, no. I stopped doing that a while ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, he never showed up. That was his fault, not mine.
Well, how many years ago was that?
40 years. I've been alive for 40 years. He's never shown up once. So, you know.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I wasn't prepared for that, actually. I would have actually done some reading a little bit before.
You still drinking that same coffee?
Yeah, I know. It's 4 a.m.
Holy cow. I could have gone through 2 of these already, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, you're strong. You must have some really strong coffee.
Oh, mate. Well, what can we do? What can we do? So how many listeners do you have on this podcast?
Oh, man. I don't know. 300.
300?
Something like 300, 400, somewhere around there. I don't know. Each download. Okay. It's hard to tell, really.
No problems. No problems. It's good. That's good.
All right, man. You enjoy the future. What day is it out there? Is it the 28th?
Yeah, 20th of February.
That is nuts. You are literally in the future.
And you guys are in the...
Man, it's so crazy to think about. All right, man. Well, enjoy the future.
Nice meeting you, mate. Take care.
Talk to you, dude. And that's all the show there is for you today. Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard and want to help keep the recording light on, simply go to patreon.com/bswthepodcast and sign up to be a supporter of the show. Your episodic tithes of $1 or more will give you access to the patron feed, unaired conversations, early access to each episode, and much more. For the latest events, BSW swag, and a peek behind the scenes, head on over to the show's ever-evolving webpage at thebiblesayswhat.com. The Bible Says What the book is out. Head on over to thebiblesayswhat.com and get yourself and your grandma a signed copy. Thanks to the cosmic powers of the internet, it is now possible to buy me a beer or coffee online. Simply go to buymeacoffee.com/BSW the podcast and click the appropriate buttons. If you can't support the show monetarily, please like, share, and or leave a review. As always, you can find me at the Bible Says What Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Instagram pages. You can also reach me at bswthepodcast@gmail.com. And no matter which platform you use to listen to your podcasts, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on the next episode. Until then, would you kindly pick up your Bibles and read them? Well, I need an outro Easter egg. I need your help. Would you like to say something to the world?
Yes.
Coming a little closer. Talking to Spider-Man. What do you have to say?
I love Minecraft.
Wow. Wow. Anything else you want to tell the people out there besides what you love? Any words of wisdom?
I like this podcast.
Should tell everybody subscribe, buy the book.
Look at that book over there. It's the same time. Oopsies. Down goes Dr. Strange.
Down goes Dr. Strange. All right, say goodbye. No, well, let's not continue to do it. Say goodbye. Bye.
Bye bye.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.